You know the feeling, right? You're knee-deep in a project, you're absolutely on a roll, and then, bam, you hit a complete mental wall. 1 minute you're making incredible progress, and the very next minute, you're just sitting there staring blankly at your screen. The brain fog rolls in. Suddenly you feel this overwhelming urge to just pick up your phone and scroll, thinking, why am I even doing this? Whether it's trying to cross the finish line on an overdue report for work, tackling a massive personal goal, or trying to figure out how to solve systemic global issues, no pressure, right? We have all felt that sudden, paralyzing frustration. We've all felt completely stuck. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into this incredibly practical, science-backed guide from our source material on how to get unstuck. We're going to explore how to break down massive personal goals, and more importantly, how to use your own brain chemistry to build unstoppable momentum. As you'll see, getting out of a rut isn't necessarily about working harder. It's about learning how to work smarter alongside your own biology. Here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the stuck in the middle effect. Then, hacking the dopamine cycle, tackling unmovable boulders, fueling progress through community, and finally, the momentum of small wins. Let's get right to it. Section 1, the stuck in the middle effect. So the very first thing to understand here is that hitting that mental wall, it is absolutely not a personal failing. You're not being lazy. You haven't lost your edge. Actually, you've just fallen into a really well-documented psychological trap called the stuck in the middle effect. This is basically what happens when the shiny initial novelty of a project completely wears off, and suddenly the rest of the goal just feels overwhelmingly massive. It's so frustrating. Instead of feeling proud of what you've already done, your brain kind of gets totally obsessed with how much heavy lifting is still left to do. Think about how things feel right at the beginning of a project. Everything is fresh, it's super exciting, maybe it even feels a little too easy. The source material actually compares it to starting a run, where that very first mile feels like you're already winning the whole marathon. But then the middle hits. The novelty evaporates. The finish line just seems impossibly far away, and that heavy, paralyzing frustration really sets in. You find yourself trapped in the slog. But honestly, just recognizing this sharp contrast between the hype of the start and the reality of the middle is exactly how we start to escape it. Which brings us to Section 2, hacking the dopamine cycle. So if the root of the problem is just how we perceive the remaining workload, the antidote is changing how we approach our tasks to unlock our natural motivation. The source material uses this highly relatable analogy that I absolutely love. You do not have to eat the whole pizza in one bite. I mean, when your goal feels overwhelming, you just have to break it down. You literally cannot consume a massive project all at once, and trying to do that is exactly what triggers that stuck in the middle paralysis. So how do we actually execute this breakdown neurologically speaking? Well, it starts by taking that giant goal and fracturing it into the absolute smallest possible pieces. Then you focus on knocking out just one single micro task. And here's where the biology kicks in. Every single time you check something off a list, no matter how tiny it is, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. And dopamine is fascinating. It's not just a chemical high five for a job well done. It is literally the neurochemical currency of motivation. It acts like a renewable energy source. That quick hit fuels your momentum, giving your brain the exact chemical drive it needs to tackle the very next task. By leveraging this specific dopamine cycle, you're basically giving yourself permission to win repeatedly. You're deliberately setting yourself up for these continuous, highly addictive small victories. Instead of waiting, say, 6 grueling months for one massive feeling of accomplishment when the whole shebang is finally done, you're engineering daily, hourly, or even minute-by-minute wins. These micro-victories physically compel your brain to keep moving forward, completely sidestepping that terrible feeling of being stuck. Moving on to Section 3, tackling the unmovable boulders. Now, you might be wondering, how does this scale up? Because this dopamine hack isn't just for, cleaning out a messy garage or finishing a quarterly report. Take a massive societal issue, like climate change, which the source material uses as a great example of a giant, seemingly unmovable boulder. It's a problem so staggeringly huge, it's incredibly easy to feel small and entirely powerless. Research shows that while a massive majority of people care deeply about the issue, only about 33% take consistent action. The other 67% care, but they just freeze. So why does that 33% stay engaged? Well, it boils down to belief. They genuinely believe that small micro-actions, like recycling or voting for eco-friendly policies, truly matter. They're breaking that massive boulder down into manageable little pebbles. The source material also highlights another really fascinating driver for tackling big boulders, and that's anger. Moral outrage can actually be a superpower. Think back to the U.S. civil rights movement. People were rightly outraged by systemic injustice, and that collective anger really helped create the drive for monumental change. When moral outrage is used constructively, meaning it's focused squarely on taking practical steps towards solving the problem, rather than just wallowing in the feeling of being stuck, it forces progress. It clarifies exactly what's at stake and channels that raw emotion into real actionable momentum. All right, section 4, fueling progress through community. Maintaining all this hard-earned momentum, especially when you're hacking your way through a giant project or a tough societal challenge, requires one more absolutely crucial element. You need to find your people. When you're feeling stuck, just being in the trenches with others makes you feel significantly less lonely. Finding a community of like-minded folks just skyrockets your motivation. And the psychology behind this is incredible. Sometimes, literally just observing someone else taking action gives you a vicarious boost. Your brain sees their momentum, mirrors it, and gives you the exact spark you need to get moving yourself. Plus, when you're staring at a problem and genuinely wondering what your next move is, collaboration brings in the fresh perspectives you need to bypass that mental block entirely. And that brings us to our final section, section 5, the momentum of small wins. Let's pull everything we've learned together into immediate, practical actions you can take right this second to reclaim your progress. This is the ultimate takeaway, the domino effect. Doing absolutely anything triggers a chain reaction that bypasses your brain's paralysis mode and gets you instantly back on track. Look, when you're stuck, your brain overthinks the massive scope of the work. Taking any action cuts right through that noise. Maybe it's writing just a single sentence of a paper. Maybe it's going for a quick 5-minute jog, or maybe it's signing a petition. The point the source material really hammers home is that no action is too small. One little action knocks over the next, feeding that dopamine cycle, and suddenly you are back in motion. So how do we equip ourselves for the next time we hit a wall? Here is your Getting Unstuck toolkit. First, make your goal bite-sized. Just ask yourself, what is the absolute smallest thing I can do next? Second, take any action, no matter how tiny it feels in the moment. Third, find your people to keep you accountable and inspired. And fourth, celebrate your small wins. Did you write just 100 words today? Great. Did you run just 1 extra mile? Fantastic. Every single sub-goal you crush deserves a moment of recognition. Acknowledging those small feats provides the exact biological confidence you need to push for much bigger victories. I want to leave you with this final, provocative question to carry with you. What is one baby step you can take today? Literally right now, as soon as this explainer ends. Don't look at the massive remaining project. Don't worry about the miles left to run. Just look at the very next inch. Apply this dopamine hack immediately. Give yourself permission to win right now and go crush your next sub-goal. You got this.